There are truths in life that we spend years trying to avoid. We distract ourselves, keep busy, and tell ourselves there will be more time. But the Stoics did not shy away from these truths. They faced them head-on. This is one of those truths. Everything you know, everything you love, and everything you fear will one day be gone. Life is a moving river, carrying moments away the instant they arrive. You cannot stop its flow, but you can decide how you travel within it. Imagine standing at the edge of a great sea. Waves roll in, each one unique, each one destined to break and fade. You cannot hold a wave in your hand. You can only feel it, experience it, and let it pass. This is how the Stoics saw life. To live well is to be present for each wave, each joy, each pain, each fleeting opportunity, without clinging or resisting. This is not an easy path. It demands courage, presence, and the humility to accept that you are part of something far greater than yourself. But it is also the path to clarity, to freedom, and to unshakable peace. And it begins with a brutally honest reminder: nothing lasts forever. Once you understand this, the way you live will never be the same. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The Truth About Impermanence. It may seem unsettling at first, but it's true. Everything is temporary. Nothing stays the same forever. The seasons change, the tides shift, the stars burn out, and even the mightiest empires crumble. Our lives, our emotions, our struggles, none of it is permanent. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that time flows in one direction, that every moment we experience is already slipping through our fingers like grains of sand. But instead of despairing at this truth, they found freedom in it. They understood that acceptance of impermanence is the key to inner peace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." This is a powerful reminder that everything we experience is part of a natural cycle. What rises will fall, what begins will end. But this impermanence is not a tragedy, it is simply the way of things. When we resist it, we suffer. When we embrace it, we find peace. The things that trouble you today, the worries that keep you up at night, the pain you feel, it won't last. The same is true for moments of happiness, bursts of inspiration, and fleeting triumphs. Everything moves forward, and so must we. Think about your own life. The friendships you had in childhood, the places you once called home, the struggles that once seemed unbearable, they have all changed. The colors, textures, and shapes of your life have shifted over the years, and each change has brought both gain and loss. You are not the same person you were 10 years ago, and you will not be the same 10 years from now. You may not even be the same a year from now. Your priorities shift with new responsibilities, your perspective matures through lessons learned, and experiences carve out new shapes within you, sometimes gently, sometimes with the sharp edge of hardship. The Stoics remind us not to cling to what must inevitably fade, nor to fear what will eventually come. Instead, we should appreciate things as they are, in the moment they exist, knowing they will not last, and draw value from them while they are here, fully aware that their impermanence gives them their worth. Seneca taught that every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. We fear endings, but they are just transitions, doors closing so that others can open. The loss of one thing makes space for another. A job that ends allows you to discover new opportunities, build new skills, or finally commit to an idea you've been delaying. A relationship that fades gives room for growth, self-reflection, and the possibility of deeper connections elsewhere. Even the end of life itself is simply another transformation, just as day turns to night and back again. Knowing this, we can stop grasping at the illusion of permanence. We can let go with gratitude, understanding that the natural rhythm of life requires movement, and that resisting this rhythm only prolongs our discomfort. This acceptance requires deliberate practice. The mind naturally wants to hold on, to seek stability, and to preserve the familiar. It clings to people, places, routines, and identities out of habit, often long after they have served their purpose. But the Stoics would say stability is found not in clinging to the unchanging, but in building a mindset that flows with change, adapts without bitterness, and turns transition into an ally. When you understand that change is inevitable, you stop being shocked when it arrives. You see it as part of the rhythm of existence, a constant tide shaping you in ways you may not yet understand, slowly sculpting the person you are becoming. The practical step here is to train yourself daily to notice impermanence and feel gratitude for it, expanding your awareness beyond just the obvious. When you drink your morning coffee, appreciate it as if it is the last one you'll ever have. Notice its warmth against your hands, the rising steam, the aroma that fills the air, the first sip touching your lips, and the quiet moment it creates before the world demands your attention. Let yourself savor the stillness between sips. When you see a loved one, be fully present, as if this moment will never repeat, because in truth it will not exactly this way. Notice the way they speak, the expressions on their face, the sound of their laughter, and the way the light falls across them in that exact instant. When you watch the sun set, allow yourself to be aware that this sky, with its particular mix of colors and clouds, will never exist again, and that the precise feel of the air, the scent in the breeze, and the chorus of evening sounds are part of a one-time arrangement. Extend this mindset to everyday events, the rustle of leaves as you walk, the taste of fresh bread, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, knowing each is unrepeatable. This is not morbid thinking, it's gratitude in its purest form, a deep grounding in the reality that each encounter, each experience, and each breath is a gift that cannot be stored for later, but must be fully lived now, with both attention and appreciation. Chapter 2. The present is all you own. If everything is fleeting, what should you do? The Stoics say, focus on the present. This moment is the only thing you truly have. The past is gone, the future is uncertain. Only now exists. Living fully means refusing to postpone what matters, no matter how small or ordinary those moments might seem. Love deeply, not only in grand gestures, but in the quiet acts of attention and care. Act with courage, even when the risks are small but meaningful. Speak with kindness in every conversation, allowing your words to lift others rather than weigh them down. Express gratitude, not just for monumental events, but for the everyday experiences that make life rich. To dwell in the past is to trap yourself in something that no longer exists, binding your energy to a time that cannot return. To worry about the future is to hand over your peace to what may never come, surrendering the only certainty you have, the present. Consider your last week in vivid detail, allowing yourself to replay it like a film. How many moments slipped by without you truly being present? How many times were you physically in one place but mentally elsewhere, lost in unfinished conversations in your mind, mentally preparing replies to words never spoken, or imagining events that may never happen? How often did you scroll through a screen without noticing the passage of time, or sit at a table with others while your thoughts wandered into unrelated worries? The mind drifts easily into regrets of yesterday, replaying what cannot be changed in the hope of rewriting it, and into projections of tomorrow, forecasting futures you may never live and outcomes that may never arrive. The Stoics trained themselves to notice this drift and to return to now with deliberate, repeated practice. Epictetus would remind his students that the present moment is where our power lies, because it is the only place we can take action, the only ground we actually stand on, the only point from which change can be made. One way to strengthen this capacity is to use what the Stoics practiced: conscious reflection with purposeful intention, paired with consistent self-examination, deepened with an honest willingness to see yourself without distortion. At the start of the day, tell yourself, "This is the day I have. I may not see another sunrise. I will meet it with focus, with presence, and with the discipline to live in harmony with my principles." Then ask what kind of person you intend to be in the hours ahead. Picture how you want to respond to difficulty, how you will carry yourself in conversations, and how you will act when no one is watching. Imagine the temptations, frustrations, and distractions you might encounter and commit in advance to how you will meet them. At the end of the day, review with honesty and courage. Did I live this day fully? Did I speak with care and restraint when it was needed? Did I honor my values in my choices, my words, and my thoughts? Did I show patience when tested and integrity when it would have been easier to bend? Where did I fall short, and how can I improve tomorrow? This review is not for self-condemnation, but for clarity. It is a recalibration that ensures you keep steering toward the person you intend to become. This practice keeps you rooted in reality and stops you from waiting endlessly for the right time to live, because you recognize that the right time is always now. And the more you repeat it, the more naturally it shapes your behavior during the day. You begin acting with the awareness that you will be accountable to yourself by nightfall. When you live in this way, urgency replaces procrastination, because you feel the weight of each passing hour more sharply, as if each one is a coin you cannot earn back. Presence replaces distraction, because you understand with certainty that moments cannot be reclaimed and that no amount of regret will bring them back. Gratitude replaces entitlement, because you begin to see each breath, each interaction, and each opportunity as a gift, not a given, and you meet them with respect. The Stoic lives as though each day could be their last, not in fear, but in readiness, meeting the day with a clear mind, a steady purpose, and a heart prepared to let go when the time comes. And when that day arrives, they will not wish they had lived differently. They will meet it knowing they gave their life their full attention and their best effort. Chapter 3. Change is the law of nature. Change is not the enemy. It is the rule by which everything operates. Every ending is a beginning in disguise. Every loss is the clearing of space for something else to emerge. Nature does not resist its own cycles. Winter does not mourn the loss of autumn, nor does spring resist the coming of summer. Rivers do not fight their flow toward the sea, and trees do not cling to their leaves when frost arrives. The winds shift, the tides rise and fall, and mountains slowly change shape over centuries without complaint. The Stoics believed we should do the same: observe change without panic, welcome its arrival as part of the larger design, and release what must go without clinging or resentment. When change comes, greet it as an expected guest, not an intruder, and recognize that it brings with it the raw material for your growth. Fear of change often comes from the illusion of control. We convince ourselves that if we plan enough, work hard enough, or anticipate every possible outcome, we can hold the present in place. But the Stoics taught that we control very little: our thoughts, our choices, and our actions. Everything else belongs to the world beyond us: the behavior of others, the turning of the seasons, the rise and fall of fortune, the timing of events beyond our reach. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Whatever happens to you has been waiting to happen since the beginning of time." Accepting this truth strips away much of the surprise and fear we feel when life shifts in ways we did not choose, and it frees us from the exhausting battle to keep things fixed in place. To apply this, shift your energy from resisting change to preparing for it, approaching it as you would an inevitable season in the cycle of life. Expect it as part of the rhythm of living, and make readiness a habit rather than an afterthought. Anticipate that life will alter your plans, sometimes subtly and sometimes with force, and when it does, adapt quickly, like a sailor adjusting sails to match the wind rather than cursing the weather. Just as a sailor studies currents, cloud movements, and the feel of the air to anticipate shifts, you too can observe the patterns in your own life and prepare yourself mentally for what is likely to come. Learn to sense when circumstances are about to change and build the flexibility to respond without hesitation. This mindset removes shock and replaces it with resilience, because you stop demanding that the world remain still for your comfort and instead focus on moving skillfully within its constant motion. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" expand the question into something more constructive. How can I use this? What can this teach me? What strengths can I develop through this challenge? How will this shape me into someone stronger, wiser, or more prepared for what comes next? Take the situation apart in your mind, looking for opportunities hidden beneath the discomfort. Consider what virtues, patience, courage, discipline, humility can be trained in this moment, and remind yourself that these qualities rarely grow in ease. See change as a craftsman's chisel, shaping the raw stone of your character into something refined. In this way, change becomes not a force to fear, but a tool for growth, a forge in which your character is tested and strengthened, rather than a blow meant to break you. Each trial, each adjustment, becomes part of the architecture of your resilience, a structure you can stand upon when the next wave of change arrives. Chapter 4. Letting Go as Liberation. One of the most difficult Stoic disciplines is learning to let go. We often carry the weight of the past, old grudges, failed relationships, missed opportunities. The Stoics understood that holding on is a choice, and one that traps us in unnecessary suffering. Seneca advised, "To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that the prisoner was you." Letting go is not about erasing memories or pretending the past never happened. It is about releasing the grip that those experiences have on your present, so they no longer dictate your emotions, choices, or sense of identity. When you release their hold, you create the mental and emotional room to act with clarity rather than from old wounds. Letting go also applies to identities, and this is often where it becomes most challenging. We cling to who we think we are or should be, even when that version no longer fits, because it feels safer than stepping into the unknown. The comfort of the familiar, even when it limits us, can be more tempting than the uncertainty of transformation. Yet growth requires the courage to shed outdated versions of ourselves, roles, titles, and self-definitions that may have once served us but now restrict our movement and stifle our potential. The Stoics saw this as essential. Life is a constant act of renewal, and to live well is to continuously reshape ourselves to meet the reality of the present moment rather than the memory of a past one. They understood that clinging to an old self is like wearing a garment that no longer fits. It may once have suited us, but now it constricts and keeps us from moving freely. Practically, this means doing regular self-audits with full honesty, not just when life forces change upon you, but as a deliberate discipline. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to that no longer serves me? What beliefs, habits, grudges, or patterns of thought keep me tethered to a version of life I have already outgrown? What parts of my self-image are based on who I was rather than who I am or who I wish to become? Then, take deliberate and compassionate steps to release them. Whether it's a habit that drains your energy, a belief that limits your potential, or a resentment that poisons your peace. Some changes may require small, consistent shifts. Others might call for decisive action. This process is rarely instant. It's a practice repeated over time. Some attachments will loosen quickly with awareness, while others will return again and again until we have truly learned their lesson. But with each thing you release, you create space for what matters most: new opportunities, deeper connections, personal authenticity, and a self that is more in alignment with the person you are becoming and the values you wish to live by. Chapter 5. Memento Mori, the reminder of mortality. Perhaps the most brutally honest Stoic reminder is this: you will die, not to frighten you, but to free you. Memento Mori, remember that you must die, is not a dark obsession, it's a wake-up call. Marcus Aurelius said, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." Awareness of mortality strips away trivial concerns and focuses you on what matters, bringing your attention to the essential truths that guide a life well lived. It is a reminder that each day is not an unlimited resource, but a finite opportunity. When you truly understand that your time is limited, you stop postponing the important things, whether they are great ambitions, long-held dreams, or small acts of connection that bring meaning to life. You stop wasting energy on petty conflicts, grudges, and the endless chasing of distractions that add no meaning to your days. You see clearly how much time is lost in needless worry, in pleasing those who do not matter, and in chasing what you do not truly value. Instead, you begin living with urgency, clarity, and purpose, measuring your actions not by how busy they make you, but by how aligned they are with your values and how deeply they connect to what truly matters to you. A practical way to live this is to regularly visualize your life from its end point. Imagine yourself at the close of your life, looking back. If you were at the end today, what would you wish you had done differently? What conversations would you wish you had initiated, and with whom? What risks would you regret not taking? Opportunities to grow, to love, to contribute? Which relationships would you wish you had nurtured, and which unspoken words would weigh on your conscience? Let these questions sharpen your awareness, and then adjust your choices now, while the time remains, so that you are actively closing the gap between your present actions and the life you want to remember. Use this perspective to strip away what is trivial and to focus your attention on the essential. The Stoic does not fear death because they live in such a way that when it comes, they are ready. They treat each day as complete in itself, ensuring that if their life were to end, it would do so on a note of integrity, presence, and courage. They do not measure life by its length, but by its depth. Their life is complete in each moment because they lived fully in each moment, making choices that reflect their principles, leaving nothing essential unsaid or undone, and carrying themselves in a way that would make them at peace if the end arrived without warning. Chapter 6. Mastering the Inner Dialogue. The conversations you have with yourself shape the quality of your life more than the conversations you have with anyone else. The Stoics understood that the mind is both our greatest ally and our greatest saboteur. Left unchecked, it will feed on fear, amplify insecurity, and weave false stories about our worth and our future. But when trained, it becomes a clear, steady guide. Epictetus reminded his students, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters, and your reaction is born in thought. The inner dialogue you maintain is the soil in which your actions grow. If the soil is poisoned with self-doubt, fear, and exaggeration, what grows from it will be weak and unsteady. If it is enriched with reason, clarity, and virtue, what grows will be strong and enduring. Your inner dialogue determines whether you approach a challenge with courage or avoidance, whether you meet change with adaptability or resistance, and whether you choose the path of principle or fall into the pull of impulse. To master this, you must first become intimately aware of the language you use in your mind and the tone with which you speak to yourself. Are your thoughts laced with defeat before you even begin, quietly convincing you that the effort is pointless? Do you magnify difficulties in your imagination until they seem immovable and overwhelming? Do you dwell on worst-case scenarios so vividly that they feel inevitable, freezing you in place before you have taken a single step? The Stoics would have you strip these thoughts down to their bare, verifiable facts, removing every layer of emotional distortion, assumption, and exaggeration, and then choose a response rooted in reason and virtue. This discipline is not about blind optimism or ignoring problems. It is about honest clarity, seeing a situation exactly as it is, without shrinking from it or inflating it, and meeting it with deliberate, measured action. A practical exercise is to pause when strong emotions rise, no matter how justified they may feel, and ask, what story am I telling myself right now? Is it true? Is it complete? Is it helping me act well? Then take a breath, step back mentally, and challenge that story as if you were giving advice to a trusted friend. Often, you will find that your inner narrative is inflated, incomplete, or entirely imagined. By questioning both the truth and the usefulness of your inner words, you weaken the grip of destructive mental patterns and open space for reason to lead. Once the distortion is stripped away, replace self-defeating talk with deliberate, reasoned encouragement. I have faced difficulty before and endured. I have the capacity to act according to my principles now. I am capable of meeting this moment with strength and composure. Repeat this until your mind begins to default to this voice of grounded self-direction. Over time, this discipline builds an unshakable mental foundation that supports you in every area of life. Your mind transforms into a place of counsel rather than conflict, a quiet, ordered chamber where problems are set out like tools on a craftsman's bench, ready to be examined patiently, precisely, and without unnecessary drama or haste. In this inner workshop, you are deliberate and methodical, weighing each choice not only by its immediate effect, but by its alignment with the principles you live by. Decisions are not rushed under the pressure of emotion, nor made in the haze of fear or impulse. They are shaped with care, grounded in virtue, and guided by a long-term vision of the person you are becoming. As this practice takes root, the voice within no longer undermines you with doubt or panic. It steadies you, offering measured advice even in the most chaotic moments. Every challenge in the outer world feels lighter because the real weight has already been lifted in your mind. You carry with you a constant, reasoned companion who meets life with clarity, resilience, and resolve, turning even uncertainty into an opportunity to act with purpose and composure. Chapter 7. Discipline over desire. Desire in itself is not the enemy. Ungoverned desire is. The Stoics saw unrestrained craving as a source of endless dissatisfaction. When you constantly chase more possessions, more status, more comfort, you are like a cup with no bottom. Nothing fills you. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." This simple truth cuts to the core of the human condition. True wealth is not a matter of numbers in a bank account or the size of your possessions. It is the rare ability to be content with what you have while still moving toward what is worthy of pursuit. It means living without allowing longing to control your peace of mind, resisting the restless urge that constantly whispers, "If only I had more, I'd be happy." It is the art of enjoying the present without abandoning the building of the future, living without the constant ache for what is not yet in your grasp. Discipline over desire means holding every want under the unflinching light of examination and asking, with complete honesty, will this make me better, stronger, wiser, more virtuous, more aligned with my principles? This is a filter that strips away impulse and leaves only what is worthy. Many things in life can offer a quick burst of pleasure, but beneath that sugar coating, they can quietly drain your strength, dull your focus, erode your self-respect, or create dependencies that are hard to break. The Stoic trains themselves to spot these traps before they close, to turn away from the shallow rewards that leave the soul emptier than before, and to choose instead what nourishes the deep roots of their character. They understand that unchecked desire is like fire in dry grass. Once it catches, it spreads without mercy, demanding more and more fuel. A life governed by it will never know completion or peace, no matter how much is acquired. In daily practice, this discipline is forged through deliberate acts of voluntary discomfort, small but powerful tests designed to prove again and again that your will is stronger than your appetite. Skip a meal to learn that hunger is only a passing sensation, not a threat to survival. Walk instead of drive, and let the slower pace sharpen your patience, your awareness, and your connection to the present moment. Work without distraction when entertainment tempts you, showing yourself that focus is a far greater luxury than indulgence. Rise early when you would rather sleep, or choose the harder but more meaningful task when the easier path calls. These acts may appear trivial to others, but each one is a private victory, a proof that your will is not a servant to every whim. The reward for living in this way is lasting freedom, the kind that cannot be bought, taken, or faked, because it exists entirely within you. It is the deep freedom to choose without being pulled by the invisible strings of craving, advertising, social comparison, or fear of missing out. It is the liberty of acting from principle rather than from habit, insecurity, or the fleeting pull of appetite. You cease to be a servant to impulse, tossed about by every want, and instead become a master of your own will, one who can say both yes and no with equal conviction and peace, because both are guided by clear reason and a firm alignment with your values. This mastery does more than shape isolated decisions. It builds a steady rhythm in your life. You no longer waste energy battling temptations you have already decided against. You conserve focus for what truly matters. You find that contentment grows naturally when your choices are deliberate, and that restlessness fades when your actions consistently honor your deeper purpose. In this state, you live steadily and deliberately, content with what you have, unshaken by what you lack, and purposeful in every pursuit you undertake, free in a way that the world cannot grant and cannot take away. Chapter 8. The Courage to Speak Less. In an age of constant talking, whether in person or online, silence has become rare and restraint even rarer. Yet the Stoics placed immense value on the discipline of speaking less and listening more. Words, once released, cannot be recalled. They can heal, but they can also wound, mislead, or bind you to commitments you cannot keep. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." The same applies to speech. When you speak only to be heard or to win approval, you hand over control of your peace of mind to the unpredictable judgment of others. The Stoics saw this as giving away part of yourself unnecessarily, letting external opinion dictate your inner stability and tying your emotional state to forces you can never fully command. Speaking less does not mean withholding the truth or avoiding necessary conversation when it is needed. It means removing what is needless, boastful, defensive, or reactionary, and refining your speech so that it is purposeful, precise, and fully aligned with your values. It is the discipline of pausing before you speak, creating a moment to measure the worth and impact of your words, as carefully as a master craftsman selects the tools for delicate and lasting work. This pause allows your mind to catch up with your emotions, preventing careless remarks and ensuring that what you say contributes meaningfully to the moment. It means asking yourself, will these words improve the silence? Will they serve clarity, kindness, or truth? Will they help the situation rather than complicate it? Will they reflect the person I am working to become? Will they leave no regret once spoken? And being willing, without hesitation, to hold them back if the answer is anything less than certain. To build this habit, begin with close and honest observation of your own speech patterns. Notice the moments when you speak to fill an awkward gap, when you interrupt out of excitement or impatience, or when you rush to defend yourself before fully hearing the other person's point. Recognize how often these impulses are driven by ego, insecurity, anxiety, the discomfort of silence, or the urge to display your knowledge. In your next conversation, set the clear intention to speak only when you have something truly valuable to add, something that builds understanding, informs with relevance, guides with wisdom, supports with empathy, or uplifts with sincerity. Let others complete their thoughts entirely before you respond, and pay attention to how much deeper your understanding becomes when your mind is committed to listening fully instead of preparing a clever retort, a defensive argument, or a self-promoting statement. Train yourself to absorb the full meaning and weight of another person's words before deciding if your input is truly necessary or if the greater act of service is to allow their words to stand on their own. Pay especially close attention to the subtle shifts in tone, energy, and pacing in a conversation when you allow pauses to stretch naturally instead of scrambling to fill them with sound. Notice how often silence acts as an unseen ally, cooling tension, allowing emotions to settle, inviting the other person to elaborate, or giving space for reflection before decisions are made. Use these pauses deliberately as a training ground to develop patience, presence, and the quiet confidence that does not rely on constant verbal contribution. With practice, you will see that silence is not absence, but presence, a shield that guards against regret, a subtle form of influence that commands respect, and a sign of inner discipline that few possess. The Stoics valued this form of silence because it steadies the mind, keeps the ego from chasing constant validation, and prevents the tongue from creating troubles the heart must later carry. Over time, this discipline matures into a form of quiet authority, a presence that others notice, respect, and trust instinctively because they know your words are chosen with care, spoken with purpose, and carry weight precisely because they are rare and never scattered thoughtlessly. Chapter 9. Strength in Adversity. The Stoics did not seek an easy life. They sought the strength, clarity, and resilience to meet life exactly as it presents itself, without illusions or avoidance. They understood that adversity is not a disruption to living well, but the very training ground where the virtues they most valued, courage, patience, endurance, and resilience, are forged and strengthened. Ease does little to shape character. Hardship, when met with the right mindset, shapes it into something unbreakable. Seneca said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." This truth is both humbling and liberating, a reminder that growth is inseparable from challenge. If you wish to become unshakable, you cannot cling to the hope of calm seas forever. You must train yourself to navigate storms as if they are an essential part of the voyage, not unfortunate detours. The person who has only ever known comfort remains untested, their strength theoretical, while the one who has walked through fire with discipline carries a depth of resilience that no easy path can offer. When difficulty arrives, and it will, it often strikes with the force of surprise. The instinctive question may be, why me? But the Stoic sees this as the wrong lens entirely. They reframe it, asking instead, how can this serve my growth? What skill, what virtue, what strength can I develop from this? This simple redirection transforms pain into purpose, turning obstacles into teachers. You cannot control that the storm has come, but you can control whether it tempers your character or erodes your resolve. That decision belongs entirely to you, in every moment. A practical and disciplined approach is to prepare for adversity long before it stands at your door. Dedicate time to imagining possible setbacks in your work, health, finances, or relationships. Not to dwell in fear, but to familiarize yourself with the reality that loss, change, and uncertainty are part of life. Picture these situations vividly and walk yourself through them in thought. What would composure look like here? How would integrity guide my choices? Which principles would I cling to when under pressure? Then plan your response so thoroughly that when hardship appears, you are already anchored in clarity. Visualize yourself maintaining steadiness when those around you lose control, keeping your values intact when temptation urges you to compromise. By rehearsing these mental scenarios with care, depth, and repetition, you train the mind to meet difficulty not as a stranger to be feared, but as a familiar and worthy opponent whose habits, tactics, and tendencies you have studied in detail over time. This mental preparation builds recognition, and recognition breeds composure. You learn to anticipate the feel of pressure, the first rise of fear, and the subtle urges to retreat. When challenges arise, you are not confronting them for the first time. You are stepping into a contest you have already prepared for in thought, one where you know the rhythms, the turning points, and the disciplined responses you will use. This forethought becomes a kind of mental armor, replacing the sudden jolt of panic with a steady, grounded readiness to act. Instead of being swept away by emotion or uncertainty, you move with clarity, guided by a deliberate script of principle and reason that was built long before the storm appeared. Every choice becomes an intentional act of self-definition, every action an expression of the values you have committed to living by. Even under severe pressure, you are not improvising from fear. You are executing with the precision of one who has practiced for this very moment. Over time, this repeated and intentional practice begins to fundamentally reshape the very lens through which you view hardship. Adversity no longer appears merely as a source of pain, frustration, or injustice. It evolves into something more purposeful, a necessary proving ground where your capacity to endure, adapt, and prevail without surrendering your integrity is continually tested and refined. You start to recognize that each challenge is not an interruption to the flow of life, but an essential element of it, woven into the design to strengthen you, teach you, and reveal the depth of your resilience. In this perspective, obstacles become invitations to deepen your self-command, to sharpen your discipline, and to clarify the principles that guide your every decision. You begin to see each trial as an arena for practice, a place where theory becomes reality, and where virtues are strengthened through action rather than just contemplation. The storms you face cease to be unwelcome intrusions. They become milestones on your path, each one adding a layer of polish to the gem of your character. The more storms you weather with composure and purpose, the more your inner foundation solidifies until it becomes a constant support that remains steady regardless of the conditions around you. In the Stoic view, this transformation marks a turning point where adversity stops being a threat and becomes a familiar companion on the road to virtue. Each trial is not merely survived, it is absorbed into the very structure of your being, leaving you stronger, wiser, calmer, and more steadfast. You carry the lessons forward so that even the memory of hardship serves as fuel for future endurance. Over time, this perspective gives you a profound sense of assurance. Whatever lies ahead, you have faced difficulty before and emerged not just intact, but improved. That knowledge is a source of strength in itself, and it changes the way you meet every new test that life places in your path. Chapter 10. Living the Philosophy. The Stoics did not approach philosophy as an abstract intellectual exercise to be admired from a distance. They treated it as a living discipline, a framework to be practiced in every situation, at every hour, in every sphere of life. The memorization of the words of Epictetus or Marcus Aurelius holds little value if those words do not leave visible marks on the way you think, speak, and act. Knowledge without embodiment is merely decoration for the mind. It changes nothing unless it shapes conduct. To live stoically is to weave its principles into every choice, whether large and obvious or small and easily overlooked. How you speak to a stranger when no one is watching. How you approach your work on days when motivation is scarce. How you carry yourself in moments of victory without arrogance. How you endure loss without bitterness. How you treat those who cannot offer you advantage. And how you respond to those who wrong you when retaliation would be easy. It is to act with justice toward others, even when they do not return it. With discipline toward yourself, even when no one would know if you slipped. With courage when fear presses in and urges retreat. And with wisdom when the path ahead is obscured by uncertainty. It is the constant, conscious choice to align action with principle, regardless of pressure, temptation, or convenience. Daily application is the truest and most reliable measure of progress, for it exposes whether Stoicism exists only as an idea in your mind or has truly taken root in your behavior. It reveals itself in the smallest and most unguarded moments, the way you respond when insulted, whether you lash out in equal measure or hold your composure, letting the slight pass without staining your character or wasting your energy. It appears when you face temptation, whether it is the lure of ease, indulgence, or the seduction of shortcuts, and must decide whether to yield or to stand firm in what you know is right, even when no one is there to witness it. It emerges when your most carefully laid plans collapse without warning, testing whether you will crumble into complaint and self-pity or adapt with dignity, patience, and focus. It is tested when success and recognition arrive, whispering pride into your ear, to see if you can remain grounded, humble, and fully aware of the forces beyond your control that shaped the outcome. These moments, fleeting, private, and often unnoticed by others, are the true battleground where philosophy is proved, the hidden arenas where your real self is tested and shaped. They are the quiet but decisive trials of character that determine whether Stoic principles live only as attractive ideas in your mind or flow through every choice you make with unwavering consistency. These are the crossroads where your values are either upheld or abandoned, where you either affirm your principles or betray them, often without witness, without applause, without recognition, yet carrying immense weight in shaping who you are becoming. In these moments, no cheer will rise, no public acknowledgement will come, and no one may ever know the decision you made, but you will know. And that knowledge, repeated over a lifetime, is what either fortifies or corrodes your integrity, strengthening your inner foundation or quietly hollowing it. In the Stoic sense, philosophy is never validated in theory alone. It must be hammered into shape through direct, repeated contact with the furnace of real conditions, tested in the dust, sweat, unpredictability, and constant pressure of daily life, where emotions can surge without warning, circumstances can shift with no notice, and the temptation to compromise for comfort, pride, or advantage can appear in countless subtle forms. This testing is not a rare or occasional event. It is continuous, woven into the smallest decisions and the most ordinary days, asking again and again whether you will hold to principle or yield to ease. The truest measure of your philosophy is found in whether you can remain firmly anchored in principle when the easier, more gratifying, more self-serving path is laid wide open before you, promising immediate relief or advantage. It is revealed in how you respond to subtle slights when anger pulls at you to retaliate, how you hold fast to honesty when a small, convenient lie could spare you difficulty, how you choose deliberate patience when frustration urges haste, and how you honor your commitments even when fatigue whispers excuses and no one is watching. This is the arena where character is either built or eroded, not in rare moments of public trial, but in the private, uncelebrated decisions that accumulate day after day, year after year, into the very architecture of your soul. It is here, in the smallest, quietest choices, that you slowly become either solid or hollow. Each time you choose principle over impulse, you lay down another stone in a structure within you that cannot be bought, borrowed, or faked. Each time you compromise for ease, comfort, or convenience, you do more than simply take a shortcut. You remove a piece of that structure, leaving a weakness that will reveal itself under pressure. The Stoics saw this not as a one-time act, but as a lifelong construction project, where every decision is either a reinforcement or a removal, every day another opportunity to strengthen or weaken the foundation of who you are. Over decades, these seemingly small moments shape the quality of your courage, the depth of your integrity, and the stability of your character, until they define the person you have ultimately become. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." This is the ultimate Stoic reminder that the time to live well is never delayed to some imagined future when life is calm, favorable, and free of strain. It is a truth that demands immediacy, for virtue exists only in action, not in intention or theory. The moment to act with integrity is not tomorrow, when conditions feel more comfortable, but now, within this very breath, in this exact decision, in this present exchange. Each day you live is a page in the unfolding story of your character, and every single decision you make is a permanent line you cannot erase, rewrite, or pretend was never written. The sum of those lines becomes your legacy, visible to yourself in quiet reflection and to others in the impact you leave behind. To live by this requires a deliberate and disciplined awareness that no moment is too small to matter. The way you treat a stranger, the patience you show under stress, the truth you speak when falsehood would be easier, these are the brushstrokes painting the portrait of your life. Over decades, the accumulation of such choices reveals the depth of your discipline and the steadiness of your principles. Fill those pages with actions you would be proud to revisit years or even decades from now, knowing they reflect not who you once aspired to be, but who you have consistently worked to become through conscious effort, self-control, and perseverance. Let your actions stand as silent, immovable proof of your values, the kind of enduring evidence that remains firm and unquestioned, even if every word you ever spoke were lost to time. In this way, your life itself becomes the lasting testimony of what you stood for, a legacy written not in speeches or declarations, but in the unbroken chain of choices that aligned your conduct with your highest ideals.